Have you ever looked at someone else's life and suddenly felt as though your own achievements were insignificant? Perhaps you opened social media for just a few minutes, only to find yourself overwhelmed by feelings of inadequacy. Someone your age has already launched a successful business, traveled the world, mastered several languages, or appears to be living a flawless life. Meanwhile, you may feel as though you are lagging behind. Comparison is an almost universal human tendency. Whether we admit it or not, most of us evaluate ourselves in relation to others. We compare our appearance, intelligence, financial status, relationships, careers, and even personalities. In moderation, comparison can sometimes motivate us. However, when it becomes obsessive, it gradually erodes our confidence and peace of mind. Today, I want to discuss why comparing yourself to others can be emotionally destructive, why social media intensifies this habit, and most importantly, how we can cultivate a healthier mindset. First of all, it is important to understand that comparison is deeply rooted in human psychology. From an evolutionary perspective, people once relied on social groups for survival. Being accepted by the group increased the chances of protection and cooperation. As a result, humans became naturally sensitive to social status and external validation. Even today, our brains constantly assess where we stand in comparison to others. Unfortunately, in the modern world, this instinct has become amplified to an unhealthy degree. We are no longer comparing ourselves to a small community. Instead, we compare ourselves to millions of carefully curated online identities.
Social media platforms are essentially highlight reels. People usually share their accomplishments, celebrations, vacations, luxury purchases, and aesthetically pleasing moments. Rarely do they post their insecurities, failures, arguments, loneliness, or emotional breakdowns. Consequently, we end up comparing our ordinary reality to someone else's edited presentation, and naturally, this creates a distorted perception. For instance, imagine two people. One person posts glamorous photographs from expensive restaurants and exotic destinations. The other person is quietly working, studying, struggling financially, and trying to improve their life step by step. From the outside, the first person may appear far more successful. However, appearances can be profoundly misleading. The individual posting luxurious photographs may actually be experiencing anxiety, debt, emotional emptiness, or severe dissatisfaction. Meanwhile, the quieter individual may be developing resilience, discipline, and long-term stability. The truth is that we never truly know what happens behind closed doors. Another reason comparison is harmful is because every person's circumstances are fundamentally different. People grow up in different environments with different opportunities, privileges, traumas, resources, and support systems. Some individuals receive emotional encouragement from childhood, while others spend years overcoming criticism or neglect. Some people have financial security that allows them to take risks. Others are forced to prioritize survival over ambition.
Therefore, comparing your timeline to someone else's timeline is inherently unfair. Life is not a race with a universal schedule. There is no definitive age by which you must become successful, wealthy, married, accomplished, or fulfilled. Society often imposes invisible deadlines upon us, making people feel inadequate if they have not achieved certain milestones quickly enough. However, success is not linear. Some people flourish early in life and later lose direction. Others struggle for years before eventually discovering their purpose. There are individuals who become successful at 20 and others who transform their lives at 50. Your journey is uniquely your own. One of the most dangerous consequences of comparison is that it distracts you from your personal growth. Instead of focusing on your progress, you become preoccupied with someone else's achievements. Imagine climbing a mountain while constantly looking sideways at other climbers. You would become exhausted, discouraged, and unable to appreciate how far you have already come. Many people underestimate their own progress because they are excessively focused on what they still lack. Perhaps a year ago you were emotionally unstable, insecure, or afraid to pursue your goals. Today, maybe you are stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. That growth matters immensely, even if it is invisible to others. Personal development is often subtle. It happens gradually through small decisions repeated consistently over time. Unfortunately, comparison tends to invalidate those quiet victories.
Moreover, comparison can foster envy and resentment. Instead of feeling inspired by another person's success, you may begin to feel bitter or inferior. This emotional state is psychologically draining because it keeps your attention fixed on scarcity rather than abundance. You start believing that someone else's success somehow diminishes your own potential. But success is not a limited resource. Another person's accomplishments do not prevent you from achieving your own goals. Someone else being talented, attractive, intelligent, or successful does not reduce your worth as a human being. This is an incredibly important realization. Your value is not contingent upon outperforming others. You do not need to be the most successful person in the room to deserve respect, happiness, or self-worth. In fact, constantly seeking superiority often leads to chronic dissatisfaction because there will always be someone richer, smarter, more attractive, or more accomplished. If your self-esteem depends entirely on being better than others, then your confidence will remain fragile. True confidence emerges when you develop internal validation, rather than relying exclusively on external approval. Internal validation means recognizing your own worth independently of comparison. It means appreciating your efforts, values, and growth, even when nobody else notices them. This mindset is difficult to cultivate because modern culture frequently encourages competition and perfectionism. We live in a society obsessed with productivity, appearance, and achievement. Many people feel pressured to constantly optimize themselves, as though they must become extraordinary in every aspect of life.
As a result, people often feel chronically inadequate. But human beings are not machines. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to progress slowly. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to be imperfect. Perfection is neither attainable nor sustainable. Ironically, many people who appear highly successful externally are privately struggling with burnout, anxiety, loneliness, or emotional exhaustion. Yet, because society glorifies achievement, these struggles frequently remain hidden. Another important aspect of comparison is that it can distort your identity. When you spend too much time admiring or envying others, you may gradually lose connection with your authentic self. Instead of asking yourself what genuinely fulfills you, you begin pursuing goals that merely look impressive to other people. For example, someone may pursue a prestigious career not because they love it, but because society considers it admirable. Another person may buy expensive possessions, primarily to appear successful. Eventually, this creates emotional emptiness because external validation cannot substitute genuine fulfillment. Living according to other people's expectations is exhausting. At some point, it becomes necessary to ask yourself an honest question. What kind of life do I actually want? Not the life that impresses strangers online. Not the life your relatives expect from you. Not the life society glorifies. Your life. Perhaps your definition of success is peace rather than status. Perhaps you value meaningful relationships more than wealth. Perhaps you prefer a quiet, balanced life over constant competition.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. One of the healthiest habits you can develop is learning to celebrate other people's success without diminishing your own worth. This requires emotional maturity. When you feel secure within yourself, another person's achievements no longer feel threatening. Instead, they can become a source of inspiration. You can admire someone's discipline, creativity, intelligence, or ambition without concluding that you are inadequate. This shift in perspective is liberating. It transforms life from a competition into a personal journey. Additionally, practicing gratitude can significantly reduce comparison. Gratitude redirects your attention toward what is already meaningful in your life, rather than obsessing over what is missing. This does not mean pretending that your problems do not exist. Rather, it means acknowledging that even amidst difficulties, there are still valuable aspects of your life worthy of appreciation. Perhaps you have supportive friends. Perhaps you possess good health. Perhaps you have opportunities to learn and grow. Perhaps you have survived challenges that once seemed impossible. These things matter. Another practical strategy is limiting exposure to content that triggers unhealthy comparison. If certain social media accounts consistently make you feel inferior, anxious, or inadequate, it may be beneficial to unfollow them. Protecting your mental well-being is not weakness. It is self-respect. Your environment profoundly influences your thoughts and emotions. Furthermore, it is essential to remember that life unfolds in seasons. Sometimes you will progress rapidly. Other times you may feel stagnant or uncertain. There will be periods of achievement and periods of struggle. This fluctuation is normal. Human beings are not designed to function at maximum productivity constantly. Growth often occurs invisibly beneath the surface, before becoming externally visible. Seeds do not bloom immediately after being planted. Likewise, many personal transformations require patience. One of the greatest acts of self-compassion is allowing yourself to evolve at your own pace. Ultimately, comparing yourself to others steals joy from the present moment. It prevents you from appreciating your individuality and recognizing your own path. There has never been another person exactly like you in the entire history of humanity. Your experiences, perspectives, personality, strengths, and struggles are uniquely yours. That individuality has value. You do not need to replicate somebody else's life to create a meaningful one.
At the end of the day, the most important comparison is not between you and other people. It is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. Are you learning? Are you growing? Are you becoming kinder, wiser, stronger, or more authentic? If the answer is yes, then you are already progressing. Slow progress is still progress. And finally, remember this. Your worth is not determined by social media followers, income, appearance, productivity, or public recognition. Human value cannot be measured so superficially. You are valuable simply because you are human. So the next time you find yourself comparing your life to somebody else's, pause for a moment. Remind yourself that every person carries invisible struggles, every journey unfolds differently, and no timeline is universally correct. Focus on your own path, nurture your own growth, and allow yourself the freedom to become who you are meant to be, not a copy of someone else. Thank you for listening.